My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am 36 years old. I am an emergency room doctor. I have held dying patients in my hands and kept my voice steady. I have worked through the night when families were falling apart in the waiting room. My hands have never, not once, shaken during a crisis. But one afternoon, in a hospital hallway, in front of people I worked with every single day, a woman looked me in the eyes and said something that broke 6 years of silence. "Leaving you," she said loudly, making sure every nurse nearby could hear, "was the best decision my son ever made. Now he has a baby boy, with your best friend." She smiled while she said it. Stay with me. Because what happened next, what walked through those automatic doors at the end of that hallway, was about to unravel a secret that had been buried for 7 years. And not just any secret. A secret that explained everything. The divorce, the rumors, the career I almost lost, the best friend who disappeared, and a baby that nobody, including the man claiming to be the father, could have biologically created. Keep watching, because this story doesn't end in the hallway. It ends in a courtroom, with the truth standing in the room, and nobody brave enough to argue with it anymore. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand where I came from. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody. The kind of place where people talk about you more than they talk to you. My mother cleaned other people's houses. My father drove trucks until his back gave out. Nothing came easy for us, so I worked. Through college, through medical school, through years of studying while other people were sleeping, laughing, living. I built my life one honest brick at a time, and I lived by one simple rule. Do your work. Tell the truth. Stay calm. That rule made me an excellent doctor. When patients panicked, I stayed level. When families cried, I was the steady voice in the room. But that same habit, that quiet, keep it together habit, made me terrible at protecting myself. Because when people started spreading lies about me, I stayed quiet. I thought the truth would defend itself. Drop a heart in the comments if you have ever stayed quiet when you should have spoken. Because this mistake almost cost me everything. I married Daniel Warner when I was 28. At first, he seemed perfect. He remembered everyone's name. He shook hands with confidence. He made people feel seen. Everyone loved him. For the first few years, I loved him too. We wanted children. Or at least, I thought we did. We tried for years, month after month, then year after year. The empty rooms in our home started feeling loud. After 2 years, I suggested something simple. Routine. Medical. Let's both get tested, I told him. I order those kinds of tests for patients every week. It is just science. Just information. But Daniel refused. At first he laughed it off. Then he got defensive. Then he got angry. And I made my second biggest mistake. I stopped pushing, so I went alone. A few weeks later, my results came back. Everything was normal. I remember sitting in my car, holding that paper, feeling relieved but also confused. If nothing was wrong with me, then what was happening? I didn't know. And because I didn't know, other people started filling in the answer for me. Without telling me, Daniel had been talking to his mother. Patricia Warner had a smile that never quite felt kind. It always felt like a door slowly closing. Daniel whispered little things to her. Little hints. Little suggestions. Maybe Sarah is the reason we can't have children. Maybe something is wrong with her. Maybe she just can't be a mother. Patricia believed every word. She adored her son the way some mothers do. Completely, blindly, dangerously. And so she began to repeat the story. At first it was small. A sad sigh at church. A sympathetic look. A quiet comment at lunch. Then one evening at a church gathering, she introduced me to a visitor. "This is Sarah," she said warmly. "She's a wonderful doctor." Then she leaned closer. "Such a shame about the children." The woman looked at me with pity. My stomach dropped. The story had already spread to people I didn't even know. Patricia squeezed my hand and said the sentence she would repeat for years, like a kind verdict on my life. "Some women just aren't built for motherhood." She believed it. She honestly, genuinely believed she was telling the truth. And somehow that hurt worse than cruelty ever could, because the truth was a lie Daniel had handed to her, and she had carried it for him without ever asking a single question. Tell me honestly in the comments, have you ever had someone spread a lie about you and genuinely believed they were being kind? I want to know. Through all of this, I had one person, Lauren Hayes, my best friend since high school. She was there at my wedding. She held my hand when my father died. She sat on my couch during the worst nights and told me I was enough. You don't need children to be complete, Sarah. Don't listen to Patricia. Daniel loves you. The words sounded like support. But looking back now, they always pointed me back toward the same wound. The thing I supposedly lacked. The thing everyone believed was wrong with me. I trusted her completely. I didn't notice how often she watched Daniel. I didn't notice how much she seemed to know about his schedule. I didn't notice the small signs. Then one evening, after a long hospital shift, I came home to find a large envelope on the kitchen counter. I thought it was paperwork. I opened it. Divorce papers. Half his closet was already empty. He hadn't even waited to tell me in person. He had simply left. Within a week, Daniel was living with Lauren. My husband had left me for my best friend, and the entire town almost immediately picked sides. Almost nobody picked mine. People repeated the same story everywhere I went. Sarah cared more about her job than her marriage. Sarah was cold. Sarah couldn't give Daniel a family. Sarah drove him away. Patricia made sure everyone heard it. Lauren never corrected a single word. The two people who knew me best allowed me to become the villain in my own story. The pain was unbearable, but I still didn't fight back. The next morning I went to work. A teenager came in with a broken arm. I fixed it. I smiled. I told him he would be okay. Then I went home and cried where nobody could see. That became my life. If you have ever kept going when everything inside you wanted to stop, this part is for you. For years I had worked toward leading the emergency department. I had written protocols. I had trained staff. I had spent countless late nights making that hospital better. Everyone expected me to get the position. Even I expected it. Then strange things started happening. Questions about my judgment. Questions about my emotional stability. A board member connected to Daniel's family started making quiet comments. Nothing direct. Nothing obvious. Just enough to plant doubt in the right ears. When the announcement came, someone else got the job. Someone with less experience. Someone with fewer achievements. I sat in that meeting room and finally understood. The lie had followed me to work. It had reached the one place I had kept safe. My career. That night, alone in the parking lot, staring through a dark windshield, I admitted something to myself for the first time. My silence was not protecting me. It was protecting them. I had been carrying a lie that belonged to someone else for 6 years. And it was costing me everything. That was the night I stopped being quiet. A trusted nurse gave me a name. Rebecca Stone. Attorney. 1 week later I sat across from her and told her everything. The marriage. The rumors. The divorce. The promotion I lost. She listened to every word without interrupting. When I finished, she folded her hands. What you're describing may be defamation, she said carefully. She explained what that meant. False statements. Shared with others. Causing real harm. The harm is easy, she said. The lost promotion proves it. Then she paused. The difficult part is proving the statements were false. I knew exactly what she meant. The whole town believed I was the reason we never had children. How could I prove something that never happened, didn't happen? Rebecca looked directly at me. Sometimes silence is not strength, she said. Sometimes silence only protects the people telling the lie. I sat with those words for 2 weeks. Then I called her on a Monday morning. I'm ready. A brief pause. Then she smiled. Good. Let's find out what really happened. Rebecca moved quickly. Every witness. Every rumor. Every date. Every consequence. Years of invisible pain organized into pages, evidence, and proof. When the lawsuit became public, the town exploded. And Patricia did exactly what Rebecca predicted. Instead of backing down, she got louder. She called me angry. Bitter. Trying to destroy a family. Every time she repeated the lie, she unknowingly helped my case. Because if they insisted the story was true, they would eventually have to prove it. Then Daniel's lawyer made a critical mistake. They officially claimed the statements were accurate. They put in writing that I was the reason the marriage never produced children. Rebecca called immediately. They just opened a door, she said. If they want to prove you were the problem, they may have to open Daniel's medical history too. My heart started racing. 7 years of avoidance. 7 years of refused conversations. 7 years of Daniel acting like the question only belonged to me. That wall was finally cracking. Comment a key emoji if you felt that shift. Because this is where everything turns. The judge approved the motion. The records had to be produced. And across town, panic started spreading. Patricia called Rebecca's office more than once. Daniel requested emergency meetings with his lawyer. For the first time in 6 years, they were scared. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. The first message in over a year. Please stop this. Think about the baby. Why was she scared? The lawsuit wasn't about her. It wasn't about the child. So why did those words sound terrified? 8 days later, Rebecca called. Come to my office. When I arrived, she slid a single page toward me. Most of it was sealed, protected. But one sentence was visible. One sentence. One truth. 7 years earlier, Daniel had been diagnosed with a medical condition that made biological fatherhood impossible. My hands didn't shake. But inside, everything shifted. For years people had called me broken. For years I had questioned myself in the dark. For years I had carried shame that was never mine to carry. And all along, Daniel knew. He had always known. He handed me his secret so he would never have to hold it himself. Then one more thought arrived. A thought I couldn't ignore. If Daniel couldn't father a child biologically, whose baby was Lauren raising? The answer came through the man who walked into that maternity ward the afternoon Patricia insulted me in the hallway. His name was James Calloway. Months before Lauren's pregnancy, she had been quietly involved with James. She chose Daniel instead. Cut James out completely. Never told him she was pregnant. Never told him a child existed. But James had questions. The timeline never added up. When someone finally mentioned the hospital, mentioned the date, he came to see for himself. The moment Lauren saw him walk through those doors, all the color drained from her face. She knew. DNA testing confirmed what everyone had begun to suspect. James was the biological father. Not Daniel. The baby everyone celebrated, the baby used as proof that I had failed, could never have been Daniel's. And Daniel had known that too. I turned down the private settlement. Yes, it was money. Yes, it was a quiet correction to the hospital board. But the lies about me had never been whispered. They were spoken at church. At family gatherings. At community events. People heard the lie in public. They deserved to hear the truth the same way. Rebecca looked at me. Are you sure? Yes. Then we go to court. The courtroom was full. Hospital board members. Church members. Neighbors. Everyone. Patricia sat beside Daniel. Lauren sat near the back. James sat several rows behind her. They all looked nervous. I felt calm. The truth was finally here. Rebecca laid out the evidence piece by piece. The diagnosis. The timeline. The DNA. The contradiction. One fact connecting to the next until the picture was impossible to deny. Then Daniel started to stand. The judge stopped him. Then Patricia rose, her face pale, her voice shaking. And for the final time, she said it. Some women just aren't built for it. The room went silent. I stood up slowly. I looked directly at her. You're right, Patricia. Everyone froze. You're absolutely right. I looked at Daniel. One person in that marriage was never able to have children. Then I looked back at Patricia. The medical file only had his name on it. No shouting. No argument. No drama. Just silence. Because the truth was standing in the room. And there was nothing left to say. Patricia lowered her hand. Daniel sat down. His face disappeared behind his hands. The story was over. The lie had nowhere left to hide. The hospital reopened the leadership position. The board reviewed everything. And this time, they made the right decision. I received the promotion. Not because anyone felt sorry for me. Because I had earned it. When I walked into my new office, I felt lighter than I had in years. The burden was gone. The shame was gone. The lie was gone. Daniel eventually moved away. Patricia quietly disappeared from community events. Lauren and James worked through custody for the child. Before it all ended, I mailed Patricia one final note. Short. Simple. I won't carry your son's lie anymore. You shouldn't carry it either. She never replied. I never expected her to. I no longer needed her answer. I finally had something better. The truth. And here is what I want you to take from all of this. The truth does not need to shout. It does not need to chase anyone. It does not need to defend itself every single day. It simply waits. And when the right question is finally asked, the truth answers for itself. If this story stayed with you, if any part of it felt familiar, I want you to know something. Staying quiet is not always the same as staying strong. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask to be seen clearly. If you have carried someone else's story about you for too long, maybe today is the day you set it down. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? Would you have taken the settlement? Would you have stayed quiet longer? I read every single comment. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Like this video and subscribe for more real stories like this one. And remember, you are not the lie someone else told about you. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one. Share.